Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I am Danielle and this is my co-host, Ani Rivera. If you guys are new to this podcast, we are both hairstylists, but I created a system called Natural Beauty Row Hair Extensions, and Ani is my lead trainer inside of that system. And things have just been picking up momentum like crazy. I've had my brand for probably almost a decade, and it started with literally just me, and I started doing small classes. I started with shadowing. They moved to like 10-person classes, 20-person classes, 50-person classes, and then we started doing, when was our first BMS con?
2016.
So 2016 was our first convention. It was like 100 people, then it was like 200 people, and now we're kind of capping it off at around 350 this year.
Yeah.
So 350 feels like a perfect number to kind of like, we do this big thing called BMS Con, which is Big Money Stylist Convention, which is the business, marketing, and sales for Natural Beauty Row. So we're hairstylists, but we just like to share like what's going on, like conflicts that hairdressers face, business owners, entrepreneurs, and we try to add value every single show by basically just kind of talking and sharing like what's going on right now. So
Let's backtrack a little. So one thing that, like, when I started in BMS, which by the way, it's 4 years ago next month. I just want you to know I'm very excited about.
Ooh.
It's our anniversary. But one thing that we've always really stressed and emphasized is, although social media is great, like truly, it's an amazing marketing tool. Like, following doesn't matter. I was able to make 5 figures, like multiple 5 figures a month with like 1,100 followers. But inside of that, we've also always said you can't rely on social media because you don't own the platform. It's not yours. So we actually use something called clickfunnels.com. It's an amazing tool and system where we've gone through. We have videos. That's where we have all of our education. We've been able to create massive subscriber lists to people who just want to hear from us. And we've taught that for 4 years now.
Right.
And something very interesting happened this morning. Danielle, when you woke up, what did you find out?
So every morning I usually go on and myself, and then I have an assistant who helps me manage my accounts. I have like a salon account. Instagram accounts. I have a salon Instagram account, and then my main Instagram account is Natural Beauty Row Extensions. They had almost 70,000 followers on it. I'd been working on it for probably like 6 or 7 years. And in the beginning, it was literally just me and my hair stuff. But then as my salon evolved and my education evolved, it became a brand in its own of just like beautiful hair. So it's just crazy. So I wake up this morning, I go to post a photo, and the account got hacked. And what's interesting is literally a week ago, I'm listening to a book called Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. And he's like talking about like the importance of, yes, social media is important, but you don't own that list. Like literally Facebook or Instagram could shut you down or something happens overnight. And like you don't own that following. You just don't. It's a platform that you use. And I'm like, that's fine. Like
and so I'll say we still implement what we teach. Like we still use funnels. We still have a subscriber list for all sorts of classes and education. But we do Facebook advertising and Facebook and Instagram. They're owned by the same person, in case they're same people, in case you don't know. Everything's owned by Facebook. So because social media is so big, we've never really taken seriously the fact of like, there might come a time where it's not here. We're like, yeah, we're working on it. Yeah, but. Until this morning, when all of a sudden our 70,000 followers, like we can't even log into the account.
Right. And I will say, like, we have a subscriber list that we email out. And yes, we've done paid ads and things like that. But honestly, everything's been able to pick up pretty organically, I would say.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Because if you can build an organic following, they're usually a pretty true following. Like, it's a good way to market and advertise. And I feel like it doesn't matter, but as my brand's grown, I'm not just trying to like book clients for myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's important to have a mixture of that organic following as well as having a subscriber list or an email list, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I kind of was like, oh my God, like when I saw this, I was like, well, I immediately, when something crazy happens, I just always assume the worst. I'm like, okay, cool, it's gone. So then what do we do? And I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this and this and this. We've got to build the following up here. Like, I already kind of have a game plan, but I was almost like just trying to like process it this morning because it was like something that I had worked on for 7 years. And I just felt like it finally like, I was one of the first, I would say, like hand-tied or beaded row extension systems like out there.
Absolutely.
And now there's like a ton of different systems, and kudos to every entrepreneur for doing your thing, and that's fine. But I felt like I felt like I was like, oh yeah, I got a good following and things are, and then I was like, oh my God, it's gone. But what else I realized too is like we have so much stuff besides just social media. Like if you Google natural beaded rose, like a ton of stuff comes up because I built a pretty solid foundation. And not only that is with having a subscriber list, like I don't rely just on Instagram to sell a class. Like
no.
In fact, anytime I launch a class or anytime I launch anything inside of my salon, whether it's like, hey, we're gonna offer, we offered gift cards like this last month with everything going on with COVID-19, but I don't really, I'll do a post, but what I do first is I email my list. And all of my classes, including my convention from last year, was all sold out by what?
Oh, just by the email list.
Just by the email list. I think I made 2 or 3 posts on Instagram and I didn't do paid ads and we sold out the event. So I kind of had to remind myself of that this morning. I was like, oh, shit. And then I was like, oh wait, I actually rely more so on my email list and the foundation that I built than my actual social media account. Does this suck? Yeah.
For sure.
Is it creepy?
Well, and I'll even let you guys know, obviously we're watching what's happening, and they changed like the profile pictures to some super like murdery horror scene thing.
Yeah, it's
They
super
changed
weird.
the name to where now I'm like, fuck, now I'm gonna have to go in my accounts and start deleting all of that.
Totally.
And now they're even like deleting photos. They've deleted about a month's worth of photos already because I've literally been watching them be deleted as the morning goes on. But I think it really put us, and it's so funny because for the past few days now, I've been working on all of our funnels, which is our website. It's how we promote classes. It's all of our subscriber list. And I've been sitting there doing it like, okay, this is important. And today it really kind of hit as Danielle's texting me. I mean, it's had to be like 7, 8 a.m. I'm already in front of my computer going through, working, adjusting, making more pages and adding videos and stuff. And I sat there and I'm like, you know what? This is more important than ever.
Right.
And although it sucks, I think it's also a really good reminder, not only for us, the importance of this, but also, even if you don't own a salon, guys, or you don't own like an education business, it doesn't matter. Any kind of business you have, whether it's sports apparel or you're in like the beauty industry, like Botox or clothing, whatever it is, you should have some kind of subscriber list in case shit goes sideways ever for any reason.
Right. I know. It's like I'm still kind of like processing it, and I think it's like really crazy, and now it's kind of getting like dark and creepy. Like I'm kind of at the point when I saw them change the profile photo, I was like, fuck that, scratch that. Like I'll start over because something dark and creepy is like just weird.
And I told Danielle earlier, I actually knew a woman this happened to. Probably it was when I lived in Missouri, so it was 4 or 5 years ago now. And she had hundreds of thousands of followers, and someone hacked her account. Went through, she was able to get it back because her boss knew someone literally in Facebook. But it was like they deleted all of her photos, her entire following. So it was basically like starting from scratch anyway, which is so crazy. But that's what they do. They emailed her and they were like, hey, we'll give you back the account for X amount of money. And she was like, you can fuck off. I'm not paying you shit.
Right.
We will not be held hostage.
I was just going to say, like, it just goes to show, like, you can't rely on, like, hashtags, and you can't rely solely on social media platforms because they can easily be, like, shut down or whatever it is. So, and I know that there's, like, a lot of people who rely only on the following, and they don't have anything that, like, backs that up. And that was, like, one of my goals as just like an educator and an individual. I remember when like everybody's followings were like going crazy, and I felt like I was like the late bloomer of the crowd. Like, I'm just gonna say it. And I was like, I literally started Instagram back like the first year it started. Like I was pretty new on it, like when hairdressers weren't doing it and that kind of thing. But I kind of like was more obsessed with like building a foundation. And I remember at one point in my career thinking like, God, why is so-and-so like passing me? And how come they have so many social media followers? And like, why can't that be me? And this clear voice came to me and said, what are you gonna do if you have that many followers? You don't need that many followers right now. And I was like, shit. And it was almost like this humbling thing, this voice was like, you're just not there yet. And I was like, and I thought of it as like, when I think about somebody who maybe gets a big shot on a reality TV show, but then nothing happens after. It's because they didn't have a foundation. They didn't have a business to begin with. So they were like a one-hit wonder, and then they rely on like the endorsements from being on Housewives for 1 year for the rest of their lives. No offense to Housewives, but I'm just using that as I don't usually watch it either, but I'm just using that as like an example. And so for me, like I put a lot of time and effort into social media, but when I kind of like had that realization, like, so what if you had a couple 100,000 followers? And this was back when it was just like me as a sole educator, and I was like, I wouldn't do anything. I would just feed my ego and feel really cool because I don't have educators to educate for me. I only have so many hours in the day to take on clients. Like, I guess I really had this moment where I was like, I guess it would just be to feed my ego. And then I was like, well, that doesn't make me money. So, and I immediately flipped the script. And I think that oftentimes, and we'll have artists inside of our education where they're like, it's not working. And you're like, well, what's not working? They're like, well, I didn't get any followers. And like, well, how many deposits did you get last week? Well, 2.
Okay, well, at minimum, then that's $1,000.
Right.
I would rather take the money than anything else.
Yes.
And there's actually a story about this influencer. I think she had 1 million followers, like a little over 1 million, and she wanted to start her own clothing line. And so a company agreed to do it with her, and they're like, you have to sell, it was like 37 shirts she had to sell in order to like, for them to be like, okay, we'll start this. She couldn't sell 37 shirts to her over 1 million followers. And I remember Garrett like screenshotted it, sent me the link to the story, and I'm sitting there reading that, and I'm like, 1 million people look at your stuff and you couldn't sell 37 shirts.
I have another question for you. Have you ever like you're on your Instagram page and you maybe unfollow a couple people and then you go look at your thing and it says you unfollowed 30 people and you're like, I for sure only unfollowed like 3 people, but it changes that drastically, or I'll follow 5 people and all of a sudden like my number jumps up to saying I'm followed 20 more people and I'm like, I didn't follow 20 more people. And have you noticed that?
No, that's a little scary. I can tell you if your following goes down or the people you follow goes down drastically. I do know that Instagram and Facebook alike, they'll go in and like fake accounts, like faux accounts. They'll like
delete ones associated.
They'll delete almost like robotic accounts.
Okay.
So things that aren't even real people.
Well, no, like I'll be scrolling through and there's somebody that pops up that I'm just like, I don't really vibe with you. And or if I ever feel, say I'm scrolling through and I find myself being negative towards that person, I'm like, that's probably on me. But why do I want to follow somebody? I'm going to give an example. Britney Spears, okay?
Oh!
I'm sorry. I found myself following her and never thinking anything nice. I wouldn't even like or comment. I'd just stare. But it didn't make me happy. It just made me feel like I was kind of like really judgy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a lot to look at, but not that I'm validating my judginess, but I was literally like, one day I was like, why am I following this account if it not only is it like not a neutral feeling, but I find myself being kind of like, oh, what's she wearing? What's she doing?
But artists do this kind of thing all the time. Even people in our academy, they'll be like, hey, there's another artist in my town and she keeps like liking all my stuff and then she posts similar stuff to me and I'm like, do you like her? They're like, no. I'm like, do you care about her work? They're like, no. I'm like, why are you following them? And they're like, well, I have to. I'm like,
you're all, do you though?
It's your account. Yeah. You don't have to follow people. I unfollow people all the time because I'm the same. If what I see on my feed doesn't inspire me, it doesn't bring something positive, it doesn't make me laugh, it doesn't make me happy. If it doesn't have positive feelings,
then why follow it? Yeah.
I'm not going to choose to follow and look and consume something that I don't even like.
Yeah, there's been even like, there's people where you're like, but I feel like I have to support them. And you're like, but do you? I even have like friends where I'm like, hey, I love you as a person. Your feed is like
psychotic.
Your feed is psychotic.
Sometimes I might just mute them.
Yes, I was gonna say, and so sometimes you can mute them and still support them and that kind of thing. But yeah, anything that makes me feel kind of like negative or uninspired, I'm like, eh. But that's what's so weird. I have had that where some nights where I'm like unfollow, and I'll just randomly unfollow like 4 or 5 people at a time. And I kid you not, I'll go back to my thing and it says I unfollowed like 30 people. And I'm like, that's weird. And I've always thought that was weird. And I thought, you know what? Then I probably don't actually have 70,000 followers. Is it like buy one, get 7 free? Like, come on, Instagram. What is it really? Like, is any of this shit real, right?
Honestly, probably not. And I feel like that's why I don't put so much stock into it. Because I think like the following on my work account is close to like 3,000 and my personal one is close to like a little over 6,000, which is great. That's cool. But I don't look at it like another follower. I'm more important today. I'm like, no. I don't put my importance inside of that number.
Because you're a normal human being.
Thank you. Well, and for me, I would rather, I know where, how do I explain this? I'm making a difference where I want a difference to be made.
Yes.
For me, getting one message from an artist, and I've been forwarding them to you. We have our artist, one of our girls, I won't say your name.
I'd rather have private messages than 10 positive comments from people I don't know.
Yes, and that's the big thing. One of our girls sent us a message and she's like, hey, I wanted to send this privately. I know a lot of people are going through a hard time, but I want you to know, like, my business is still thriving because of what you guys, we've been doing live trainings for 6 weeks now every day. And she said, because of what I've learned, I'm still close to my husband. The business is doing well. Our home is doing well. I've never been more connected. And I read that and I'm like, that's all that matters.
Right.
So
I think we get in our head about the wrong things.
Yes.
And it's funny, like then you'll get notes or messages like that and you're like, oh, I don't fucking care. And I feel like social media is just kind of playing the game, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay. And it's just, I find myself like getting sucked into it. And so I have like this new rule where I'm like, post, get off. Visit it like twice, respond to things, get off. I don't scroll. I used to consume a lot of social media and now I feel like I'm more of a content creator.
Yeah.
And I notice when you are a consumer only, you almost get obsessed. You start worrying about too much about what other people are doing. What is their salon doing? What are they, and you get in your own way. You really do. Like if you only are a consumer, you will get in your own way. You have to transition into being a creator and an expert. And when you can do that, you don't have time to worry about the other shit. You don't have time to hack people's accounts and put fake bunny photos up because you're doing something. Do you know what I mean? And I always look at people that hack accounts or people that are negative. You're like, can you imagine if you actually took that time and put it into yourself or into your business? You might actually be like a normal human being.
And that's why even accounts where it's literally just negative, because don't get me wrong, I realize I'm not everybody's
cup of tea,
favorite human being, and that's okay.
That's okay.
But I've actually had accounts that were literally dedicated to how much they hated me. And at first when I would see it, I'd be like, that sucks. And then I'm like,
that's sad.
But then I'm like, you know what? It turns out I don't actually care because you're spending your whole day fucking obsessing with me.
Right.
I haven't thought about you at all.
Yeah.
And then I realized I'm like, it doesn't matter at all.
Right.
So I always put my focus. I still like to post things. I think it's fun because when people comment and they're like, hey, this really resonated with me. Like, wow, I experienced that too. I'm like, hey, it's cool for people to not feel alone, to feel understood, to know like, we have your back, like you're not alone in this, but do I care that some weirdo said, hey, I'll pay you $3,000 to be my sugar baby? Ew!
There's just weird people out there, guys.
So,
There's just weird people
social
out
media
there.
can be so
It's
gross.
a free platform. It's like, what dating app is free, Ani?
Tinder. Tinder's weird. Tinder is weird. You know how I know? Because I've been on it. Tinder is terrifying.
That's what I'm saying. You might find a gem. You might, but
you know what? If Instagram had a paid version, I would be on that shit so fast.
Right?
I would love a paid version of Instagram because then to me it's like professionals that are serious.
Maybe that's a different platform then.
I don't know.
All
I know is if I get one more sugar baby comment, I'm gonna freak out. I'm like, and I literally went to a friend. I'm like, tell me the truth. Does something on my profile say desperate? Because I'm stressed out.
Why
now.
am I getting these?
And then I'm also like, by the way, I'm not taking a pay cut. You're gross. So it's just,
it gets weird.
That's a fascinating thing about social media that we put so much into it, and most of the time we don't even like what we get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's literally, I love what you said. It's an ego boost.
It's such an ego boost, and I had this discovery actually quite early into my brand because I just was like, I'm not willing to submit at that level because it doesn't in the end give me the result that I want. Do I want to feel warm and fuzzy or do I want to make some fucking money? I want to make money and make an impact in people's lives. So,
and you know what? With the money I make, I can make myself feel warm and fuzzy.
Well, and you know what's so funny is like there's the saying, money doesn't buy happiness, right? Yeah. But money makes things a lot easier.
Yes, because people, look, I've gotten some heat for some shit I've bought some days. Mm-hmm. Like students are like, you bought what shoes? And I'm like, hold up, I've worked hard enough for 6 people in these past 5 years to be where I'm at, buy the things I buy and live my lifestyle. And I don't downplay what anybody's done. But on top of that, money might not buy you happiness, but it does give you peace. When you know your bills are paid, when you're not worried about
putting food. It gives you peace and it opens up opportunity.
You're damn right it
opens up opportunity. Like it just does. There's things that I could not do in the beginning of my business because I didn't have any money to invest in my business. And as I began to build my brand and I began to invest back into my business with the money that I earned, I started to make a bigger impact, which is exactly what I wanted. And so I think that you have to kind of like, I think we hold ourselves back in the sense of we worry about what other people think about us. You know what I mean?
It's fucking social media. It's literally a popularity game. When you post a picture, no one likes it. I've had people comment and they're like, no one liked my picture. Is it bad? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, just who cares?
Be consistent.
If you like it, you enjoy it, and you're stoked that you posted it, be damned everybody else. And that's why I love that Instagram for a minute. They're like, we might take away likes. I'm like, ooh, do it. I'm all about it. Take it away.
I honestly, now it was funny, like, I usually post and I just kind of like check out, and half the time I forget what I posted. But honestly, I feel like I'm in a place in my life and in my career that I'm pretty fulfilled. Like I'm like, I have a great family. I have like a great community of artists, and we get more gratitude than anything else. You know what I mean? And so I'm kind of in this place where I'm like, that's what fuels me, that's what feeds me, and that's what makes me feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was telling Ani the other day, because I was going through some old funnel videos. A funnel video is kind of like a sales video, and it talks about the process of our education and that kind of thing. And I'm like going through the funnel. I'm like, this is really good. And then she goes through the funnel and she like calls me back crying. She's like, yes. She's like, this is so good. Just like the backstory and everything else. And it was like, it was probably good timing that we went through that yesterday. And then having everything that the account get deleted today, because it almost reiterated why I started what I started. And I've told you this in the past, and I've told all of my students in the past. It was like in the beginning when I had so much self-doubt because like I couldn't pay my bills. I had 2 kids. My husband wasn't making money. We were like on the borderline of going bankrupt. Like so much shit was going sideways. And I remember sitting at my computer one night just like, and I'm like editing my online course, and it was like clicking buttons, and I'm like, this is garbage. No one's gonna buy it, and I'm just fucking in my head. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I can't, because I'm kind of a perfectionist too, you know. But I can't be a perfectionist of stuff that I don't. I'm not a professional video editor, right? So I knew it can only be so good because I can't even afford to pay a video editor at that time. So I'm sitting there editing and just like, this is garbage. Don't do it. And I literally remember feeling like this like outside warmth of people being like cheering me on, like, no, we want you to do this. And I always tell Ani this day, I'm like, I feel like it's like the future people that we're going to impact, but we don't really know yet unless we take a left instead of a right. And I remember just feeling like, okay. And when I like kind of felt this feeling, I was like, fuck it, get out of your head. And I was like, click, 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 click. And Garrett's like, what do you think? I'm like, I think it's shitty. I think it's really shitty, but fuck it. But fuck it.
You have to do something.
And I did. And I had people buy, and I was like, okay, I like this. People are buying.
I bought it.
Right? And then I was like, all right. And then it made me want to like, okay, I want to make a new online course and make it better. You know what I mean? Because I was like, woo, nailed it. People are buying. You know what I mean? I might have had like 20 people buy, but I still was like, somebody fucking bought. And so I kept, every move I make in my business is kind of operated that way. It's like, this is scary, this is scary, this is scary, this is scary. And then I'm like, fuck it. And I do it and I get results. And every time I do it, I get better and better and better and better and better what I'm doing. And I always tell students, I'm like, you have to suck in the beginning. You do. And it's a good fucking thing that you don't have a couple 100,000 followers in the beginning. Like you think you want a following, but can't even get on a video.
You don't want to post a photo to your 25 followers. How the hell are you going to do it to 25,000?
But that's not even saying. Can you, like, when I first got on camera, and I joke about this all the time, I'm like, here's some shampoo. You should buy. Like, I sucked on camera. You know what I mean? And
yes.
And I sucked at communicating a message. And I always think back, and I'm like, God, it's a good thing I didn't have a huge following, because I wasn't there yet as an individual, as an educator, as a marketer. Like, I wasn't there as a human being yet. And you need reps to get to where you're at. And what's cool is like, the better you get, then your following kind of goes along with it. And you can kind of build yourself an established brand. So any of you guys that are listening to this, and we shared this on last week's podcast, I feel like the message right now is just fucking get out of your head and go.
And you also have to realize, because I know we talk a lot about the education part and what we get out of it and how fulfilled we feel. And I realize that most of you don't have an education company, but even if you're a hairstylist listening to this and you're wearing extensions, you know how extensions make you feel, and you know how you show up when you feel better. That's why they say, oh, bad hair day, woke up on the wrong side of the bed, because you wake up feeling like you look like shit, you're gonna act kind of shitty all day.
Right.
So even if you posting impacts one woman to come in, to get her hair done, to feel confident, to show up more at her home, to be more involved with her kids and go on dates with her husband, you haven't just impacted one person, you've impacted a family.
Right.
And those are things that I always even remind myself when it comes to what we're doing, and like how important it is that it's not just about helping one person, it's about the ripple effect that it has on everybody.
So you guys have to really ask yourself, by playing small, by letting by getting in your head, who are you not impacting? Like, honestly, like the minute you understand that, that's why, like, when Garrett's even like, why do you want to scale? I don't look at it as like, I want to scale. I like literally look at like, how many people am I not impacting yet? And am I living up to my full potential? Well, yeah, I am, but I still want to live up to more potential. I want this to go bigger, because I see the results that artists are having, and I'm like, I want that. And I feel like more people, like I said, at every level of my career, I always feel like there's more people that haven't like had the education or heard the message that are cheering me on. Like they're kind of like waiting. Is that, I mean, so I know it sounds kind of weird.
No,
so
it doesn't.
I kind of, that's what gives me like a push and gives me to like the drive that I have. Cause I'm like, well, people haven't heard of us yet. Like when they do, they'll love it. We haven't reached their radar yet, and we will.
Well, and I even think about it inside of education that, yes, like not everybody has heard about us, but if we don't figure out a way to scale to help more people, what artists right now are dying behind the chair? What artists are now on like the brink of divorce because they're always at work and they come home being a raging bitch because she's so tired and exhausted? What artist is, once again, stuck at work all the time? She has no connection with her children. I sit back and I think, by not figuring out a way to make this a system and a process, who currently, had we figured out a way, would we have been able to help? Right. And so that's why I'm like such a psychopath when it comes to systems and processes and like, no, it has to be done. Like we got to figure it out because I know there's a way to help the people that we haven't been able to like fully help and reach yet.
We haven't reached yet.
I just want to grab everyone and be like, we know how to help you.
And it's so cool though, like a lot of people that even maybe they don't do natural beauty rows, but they're like, I listen to the podcast, and just so you guys know, like I don't even do hair, but like thank you for doing that. So I feel like you kind of just have to be willing to put yourself out there because you never know who you're going to be impacting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So, well, it's coming to the end of our show.
It was a weird morning for me. I'm just going to say that. But hey, a lot of times when things happen in my life, I never am the one that tucks and tail and run. I literally look at it like, cool, I'll figure out how to come back stronger. So
fuck it, right?
Fuck it. So just fuck it.
See you guys next time.
See you guys next time. We do have, I always have to make a little announcement for those of you that follow that are interested in our convention. Things have been weird with COVID-19, but in California, things will be opening up in June. So we are actually going to be holding our convention, is it the beginning of November?
Yes, no specific dates are set yet. But we're finalizing everything. We are
still having it late fall. We limit it to 350 artists, and again, tickets go fast because I use my email list. And for those of you that are not on my email list, you can go to bigmoneystylist.com, enter your email, and you can find out more information about all of our events. And I hope to personally impact you in your career and your business. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast every Tuesday here, Big Money Stylist Podcast. So, all right.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys next week.